Something big is brewing as multiple NHL insiders, including Frank Seravalli, have revealed a shocking new update on Kirill Kaprizov's future in Minnesota. And we're going to break down exactly how the New York Rangers are going to bring this superstar to Broadway next season. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we get into everything, a reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 77% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, past, present, and future, go down below, hit that free subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything that's going on with the New York Rangers. This channel is built for blue shirt fandom, and of course, this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But Brett, let's get right into it. Obviously, a brand new, shocking report from multiple NHL insiders, but first of all, from Frank Seravalli this afternoon, and this is not what I was expecting to hear about Kirill Kaprizov and his future, but this has a serious impact on the New York Rangers' future plans, and I think gives us insight into the next superstar on Broadway, and it could be Kirill Kaprizov, but let's get right into it. Frank Seravalli says that the Minnesota Wild superstar Kirill Kaprizov and his camp have officially turned down an extension offer believed to be at 8 years, $128 million, which would equal a $16 million AAV, which would make him the richest player, not just next season in the NHL, but in NHL history in terms of total dollars. He has turned that down. We're going to get into some other interesting reports in just a second, but what's your initial thoughts to this report today? Was not expecting to hear this. As soon as I saw it, this was my initial reaction. I was like, this guy is going to be on Broadway next season. He is going to be a New York Ranger. And this comes just after Frank Seravalli reported that they were looking to sign him to a 8-year, $15 million AAV contract. He's turned down more money. What do you think of this?
My initial reaction, Darius, was wow. And you nailed it on the head in the open. You said it. Broadway. The stars belong on Broadway, Darius, not in Minnesota. And I believe Kirill Kaprizov, there are so many connections here. The dots are starting to connect. I believe if the Rangers don't land a player like Connor McDavid, they will be in line to land Kirill the Thrill. I mean, this is a megastar. We understand this brother is box office. We know what he brings to the table, Darius. He is a sensational talent, and man, would it be fun to watch here in the Big Apple. I mean, not going to waste your time breaking down, his pros and cons and this, that, and the third. You understand how good Kirill Kaprizov is. We also know he needs to stay healthy. That's an obvious point. That's, a negative when it comes to Kirill Kaprizov. But when it comes to skill, when it comes to pure talent, Kirill Kaprizov has the full package. This is an explosive skater. I understand he's not Connor McDavid or Nate McKinnon on the ice, but he's in a class of a Nikita Kucherov, even of an Artemi Panarin. I believe he's a bit quicker than Panarin just because of the age, but this is a very explosive skater. He could put the puck in the back of the net at an insanely high clip. He had 56 points this past season in just 41 games. He was on pace to end the year with 112 points. I mean, you see the stats here, a plus 19, nearly 23 minutes of ice time, 28 years of age. Like I said, he is the full package, and we're going to get into here in a second why it makes sense for him to join the Rangers. And the last point I want to make, Darius, before I swing it over to you, is if $128 million won't keep Kaprizov in Minnesota, then what will? I mean, the highest paid player in NHL history, two more than Leon Draisaitl. We know, Draisaitl is sensational as well. You understand how clutch he is in the postseason, back-to-back Stanley Cup appearances. So Kaprizov turning that down, it says a lot to me.
Absolutely. And like you said, the word to use with this player is box office. That is exactly what he is. A superstar, elite, whatever you want to use. He is that, right? You can compare him. Maybe he's on a different, level than Connor McDavid, let's say, or like you mentioned, like a Nate McKinnon, right? But he's still an elite superstar in this league that can put up insane points. You look across his career, again, we're not going to spend too much time breaking him down. We all know how elite he is, but he's, over a point a game player every season. He has dealt with some injury troubles, but this guy's unbelievable, right? So, again, he's turned down $2 million more per year than Leon Draisaitl at this point. That is the report. That is absurd to me. A lot of people have been making the connection to oh no, this is just a situation where he wants a shorter term deal, right? He wants a 4-year deal where, he can cash in again after 4 years. I'm not so sure that's the case. We are going to see stars in the league do that, right? And we've seen Austin Matthews do it. We're going to see Connor McDavid do it. We are going to see that start to happen now with the salary cap rising, right? And I do believe Kirill Kaprizov might do that, right? That could still be what the contract looks like. But I believe him turning down this much money is more of a sign of him leaving Minnesota, him wanting to go to a bigger market with a higher percentage chance of winning a Stanley Cup. I think that's exactly what this is about, not just the structure of the contract, because he can get that contract in a different market as well. I think it's more about him wanting to move on, which is pretty crazy. Now, for the New York Rangers, this wouldn't be a trade. You wouldn't have to worry about his current contract. This would be after next season. He's going to see this season through with the Minnesota Wild. But there's now other interesting reports. Now, keep in mind, Frank Saravalli came out this morning with this report, and obviously multiple other insiders have written articles about it, have said the same thing. So to me, I believe that this is true. But you can see here from Rob, this is the complete opposite, right? And there's two sides to every story, as we always say, and we like to show everything on the channel of what's out there with the current situations. And Kirill Kaprizov's camp, this is from Rob, did not turn down an extension offer for 8 years at $128 million with the Wild on Tuesday, per multiple sources. I'm told negotiations are ongoing and that no monetary value has been presented, nor has Kaprizov or his camp met with the Wild about a future contract. Now, I feel like that last paragraph there, and he also goes on to say, direct quote, that this story is completely fabricated, a fairy tale. That last paragraph I think is very interesting, and I want your thoughts on this too, Brett, because he says that there's, negotiations are ongoing, but Kaprizov hasn't met with the Wild, or his camp hasn't met with the Wild. I think that's odd, like this saying two different things almost. But there were reports all summer that Kaprizov was set to meet with the Wild about his future right before training camp. Well, we're right here, right before training camp, and we're getting reports that he's now turned down the richest deal in NHL history. So, two sides to every story. What do you make of this?
Yeah, the time is now. I mean, the time was weeks ago to try to secure a player like this. I mean, they had the opportunity to start those negotiations to lock this deal in place, and they got the momentum started
Yep.
during around training camp. But as you can see here, they were unable to close the deal. I mean, Minnesota did all they could, making him the richest player in the entire NHL despite those injury concerns, but really believing in the player, really wanting him to stick around in Minnesota. But Kaprizov simply said, no, thank you. He said, no, thank you to $128 million, which is shocking. And look, respect Rob's work, not saying that he's reporting something wrong. These are what his sources are saying. But if you look, across the internet, it's not just Frank Saravalli. He's not the only notable NHL insider reporting this. There are a ton of insiders writing articles about this, tweeting this. So not saying Rob is wrong here. There is one part of his tweet where I will push back. And you just mentioned it. You alluded to it a second ago, which is the fact that, it's hard for me to fathom, hard for me to believe that Kaprizov and his camp have not yet met with the Minnesota front office. And look, if that's the case, that is still a negative. That is still a bad look for negotiations between Kaprizov and the Wild. So even if he did not turn down that offer and what Rob is saying is true, the fact that he's also reporting they haven't even met yet, that is also a very bad sign. And I believe the Rangers are in a great spot to sign this player. I mean, the connections are there. He's connected to Igor Shesterkin. He's connected to Artemi Panarin, Vladislav Gavrikov. These are three great players at different positions. One of the best goaltenders in the league, one of the best forwards in the league, and then you have Gavrikov, one of the best pure shutdown defensemen in the entire NHL. So these connections are strong, Darius. Kaprizov goes all the way back to the KHL with Shesterkin playing in Moscow, obviously on the Olympic team, that 2018 Russian team where you saw Kaprizov score the game-winning goal against Germany. So he has that clutch gene. He wouldn't shy away from the bright lights on Broadway. We know that for a fact. Shesterkin wasn't the starting goaltender. He was Vasilevsky's backup, but still, that connection is very strong. The connection he has with Gavrikov as well, playing on Team Russia. Panarin, they have a mutual respect as well and a friendly relationship. They play the same position. They really have a lot of respect for each other there. So these connections are strong. The Rangers are going to bounce back. I strongly believe that. They're not going to deal with that turmoil and chaos that they had to deal with last season. This is a team that's bound to bounce back. This is a team that has a great mix of youth and veteran presence. 10th youngest team in the NHL. I know people find that hard to believe, but it is true. Look it up. I understand that they are, headlined by these star veteran players, Panarin, Zibanejad, etc., and they are older, but they do have a lot of young talent on this roster, which balances it out. You look at Scott Morrow, you look at Gabe Perreault, who has a chance to make the team. You look at Brett Berard, the Energizer Bunny. Juuso Parssinen, who has a chance to bounce back here. So there's a lot of young talent on this roster mixed with that veteran presence. So a very interesting destination. And man, if we see Kaprizov at Madison Square Garden, it's going to be must-see TV.
Absolutely. This is an electric player, and I think that this season's almost an audition for some of these players like Kaprizov, like Connor McDavid for the New York Rangers to bounce back. And one thing that you brought up, these connections, they're a very real thing. Very real. Gavrikov turned down more money from the LA Kings to come to New York this offseason because, Panarin wanted him to come, and Shesterkin was saying, hey, why don't you come join us here on Broadway? And he did that. He turned down more money from the LA Kings to come to New York to play with these guys in New York. I could see Kirill Kaprizov doing the same thing. An elite talent. His JFresh chart is almost perfect. He would fit in perfectly. And keep in mind, a lot of people are saying, why would he turn down this contract? Would he take less money? Is he looking for shorter term? All of these things. Phil Kosher brings up a great point here that Panarin also turned down more money in terms of AAV and free agency from multiple teams in order to sign with the team he wanted to play for, which of course was the Rangers in 2019. So I wouldn't just assume this is an issue of more money or, a shorter term deal. And that's kind of the point I think we're trying to make in this video. First thing I thought when I saw that report is that this guy is going to be a New York Ranger. But we want to hear what you have to say in the comments about this report. Pretty shocking stuff. We're going to monitor it all season along with Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, of course, because those are going to be making headlines all season long. But let us know how you feel in the comments. The conversation always continues down in the comments. It also continues on X. You can find us on X. The link is in the description. But it's going to be a crazy season and could be a crazy offseason ahead next year. And the Rangers look to bounce back this year. So let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.